the Yankees look back at the season, you think going 11-8 against the Orioles is... You think that might come back to bite? I don't know. It might. I mean, they're the worst team in the fucking league, but the Yankees just could not get wins enough against them, and the Yankees had a chance to sweep. We talked about this earlier in the season, chance to sweep. And there's a lot that goes into this, right? I think, the offense is so much to blame. So much to blame. Just the lack of run scoring is just ridiculous against a Baltimore team that can't pitch at Camden Yards. But they were a strike away. Strike away, and, when we last spoke for the Met recap, obviously, things were not looking great, but the Yankees had kind of turned it around. They had a win against the Twins, and it's crazy how the Yankees do well against the Twins. They were down 5-0 in that game, in fact, and so that was their first win when down by 4+ runs, so they got that win, which was nice, and they won the first game against the Orioles, and it wasn't necessarily pretty, but they got it done, but they were one strike away, and I don't want to put it all on him, but for this sake I will. Gary Sanchez, Clay Holmes throws a pitch that was, not the best, but Gary Sanchez can't catch it, and the runner from third ties it up in the 9th with 2 outs, and Baltimore wins in extra innings. The Yankees are not in a position where they can be affording that type of shit. You just can't. Toronto and Boston, I got to be honest right here. It's going to be close. It's going to come down to the wire. If you ask me right now, I don't think the Yankees make it. I think Toronto and Boston get in over the Yankees. That would be my prediction. And there's, 5 series to go. 15 games left. But this is fucking unacceptable. You scored 2 runs. In the second game, you scored 2 runs, and then you got 2 fucking lucky runs in the 9th inning to somehow win that one. And then the next game, you score 2 again. What the fuck are you doing? I mean, again, this offense all year long, for the most part, has not gotten it done. And I know it's a very general way of thinking, but the pitching, while it's had its struggles at times, and I think injuries have certainly hurt, but the pitching has done enough in most cases, and it certainly did here. It certainly did, but this offense has just not been good. There's people that I'm thinking about that, I'm just kind of done with. Gleyber Torres, done. Done with him. I'm sorry, I'm done with him. Gary Sanchez, I've been sick of him for years, but you just kind of learn to live with it. But, could he ever maybe be could you ever consider maybe Kyle Higashioka as a defensive replacement? Fuck their feelings. Who cares? You finally moved Gleyber Torres to second base. Well, only 5 months too late that you did that. And even that might be too much. He should be taken out for defensive purposes as well. And we'll talk about that. But, come on, Gary Sanchez? Oh, no. We don't want to upset Gary. No. He's so good. How can we possibly do that? How the fuck can we possibly do that? So, yeah, those are just 2 guys that come to mind. But the list is long. But the list is really long. But those are guys, you're not going to win. You're not going to win with those guys. They're just simply not. I know you can't have an all-star at each position, but those are not winning players. They're simply not. And, I don't know why he's coming to mind because, he's not a culprit in this. But, everyone was you got to bring Anthony Rizzo back. No, you don't. Nah, you don't really have to. I like him. I think he's solid, but he's nothing crazy. Just a good player. Decent. But, we've seen a complete, downturn in DJ LeMahieu this year. He's going to be better than some of the other guys, but considering expectations for him, it's been way down. A lot has been put on the shoulders of Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, and they've come through in a lot of ways. But they're not going to be perfect either. But it's just, it's rough. It's rough. I put a lot of it on the offense, and this was another, we can add this to the list. It had been a while, but this was a bit of a gut punch loss. It was when you're a strike away, and you need all the wins you can get right now. That one might come back to bite you. It might. So let's talk about the series. I'm not going to talk about the Twin game again. That was a 5-0 comeback win where Judge hits a key 3-run homer in the 8th to tie it up, and then they win in extra innings. It was a good. The Yankee Twin stuff is just, it doesn't even make sense how the Yankees just have their number. It is bizarre, but the Yankees always end up on top of that. So it's Garrett Cole to start out the series, and Cole, he didn't go deep into the game, but he pitched well. 5 innings, he gave up 1 run. It wasn't one of the masterful outings, but it was very good. And the Yankees, this was the most lopsided game of the series. But I will say, they ended up bringing in Aroldis Chapman, which was ridiculous to do. I'll just say that right now. But, as far as that game was concerned, the Yankees hit a lot of home runs. And from the start, too. Aaron Judge in the top of the first hit it to 2-run homer. Giancarlo Stanton hits a 2-run homer in the top of the third. And then Luke Voigt hits a solo shot. Ryan Mountcastle gets an RBI double in the bottom of the fifth. And then you get... So at this point, it's 5-1. And like I said, Yankees had 3 homers at that point. And then Michael King, who I guess could be a valuable piece of this bullpen, I suppose, down the stretch. He does give you 3 scoreless innings, which was good. My thing on Michael King has been, he hasn't really come through in big spots. But it was a nice job by Michael King to give you 3 scoreless. And it was much needed. And in the top of the 8th, Joey Gallow homers to make it 6-1, and then DJ LeMahieu homers in the top of the 9th to make it 7-1. So the Yankees hit 5 homers from 5 different players. And then in the bottom of the 9th, Sal Romano, who at this point, or I guess he still is. I think he still is. Yeah, Sal Romano is back at this point. I'm trying to think of the roster move that happened that put Sal Romano back on the roster. But it is eluding me right now. But I don't think it was anything overly significant. But yeah, Sal Romano was back. You know what it might have been? Well, either way, even if it wasn't, actually, I don't think it was. But either way, Brooks Kriske, ironically, was designated for assignment, and the Orioles claimed Brooks Kriske. So good luck, Brooks, with Baltimore. But anyway, Sal Romano struggles in the 9th and eventually comes out of the game due to injury. He kind of stupidly went for a line drive with his bare hand, and they took him out of the game. And then Aroldis Chapman was warming up, which I don't know why he was. It was a 7-1 game when he was warming up, and so they bring in Chapman in a 7-2 game, and he gets the job done, but there's repercussions for that. I wouldn't say it necessarily cost them in the last game, but one could argue that it did. One could make that argument, if you will. But Chapman unnecessarily comes into that game. It didn't make sense. And I should also mention Gleyber Torres, the experiment of him, or not experiment, but him moving over from short to second began with the twin game. It began with the twin game, so that is a move now. Gleyber Torres is now playing second base. The shortstop is now Gio Urshela, and the third baseman is DJ LeMahieu. Fine. I prefer that better. But let's get Tyler Wade needs to be in the lineup more. And I can't believe I'm even saying this. I know I've kind of stopped myself a couple of times in recent episodes, but I believe it. Tyler Wade deserves to play. He really does. He's much more of a weapon than Gleyber. I'm sorry. So we moved to game 2. And Nasty Nestor was back at it. Nestor Cortez, 11 strikeouts in 6 1/3 innings. Nestor Cortez doesn't get the win because, it's the Yankees and, nothing's easy. But Cortez was great. Cortez was awesome. And not much to say as far as the lineup goes. Gallow didn't start in this one. They gave him a breather. But, Gio's is at short. The typical new alignment was pretty much intact here. In this one, the Yankees would score... first off, Cedric Mullins robs Gary Sanchez of a 2-run homer in the second inning. Unbelievable catch by Mullins. I'm glad that it didn't end up costing the Yankees the game. One of the best catches I've seen. But then in the third, Gio Urshela gets a 2-run homer. And it's good to see from Gio because, I've been hard on him lately, but I felt like, it was a better series from Gio. Definitely a step in the right direction. So that was good to see. So Gio hits a 2-run homer. But then in the 6th, and I'm just going to say it right now, this game and the last game were very similar. They almost mirrored each other. Austin Hayes in the 6th homers to cut it to 2-1. And Cortez would end up pitching into the 7th. They would take him out and bring Chad Green in. Oh my God. Chad Green is such a fucking choke. He is. Chad Green is a choke. There's no other way that you're going to tell me. Don't defend him. The guy chokes in the big spots. He gives up home runs in the worst times all the time. Chad Green pitches a good 7th, and they probably should have just cut it clean right there. He pitched a good 7th. Let's not tempt fate. But they do. And in the 8th, let's talk about the bottom of the 8th. Bottom of the 8th, Austin Wynns gets leadoff single, which that's bad in itself by Green. You can't let Austin Wynns get a single there. But then Cedric Mullins hits a ground ball to Gleyber Torres. And it's a line drive where he doesn't catch it. It drops. For some fucking reason, this guy throws to first. Why would you do that? Why? I still don't understand what he was thinking about. Throw it to second. Why would you do that? So if he catches it, he could have doubled off wins at first. And maybe if he throws to second right away, maybe they get a double play. Either way, it was costly at the time. And again, just brain dead baseball by Gleyber Torres. I don't get it. Then there's a wild pitch, and it moves Austin Wynns to third. But Green gets Mountcastle to strike out, which then sets up Austin Hayes. 2-1 Yankees, bottom of the eighth, runner on third, 2 out, 0-2 pitch. And what does Chad Green do? He puts one right in the zone, and Austin Hayes deposits it out of the park. 3-2 Orioles. Green's at it again. You can't use him in big spots. I hate to say it, but I'd rather have Clay Holmes in there. I'd rather have Albert Abreu in there. That's just two guys off the top of my head right there. Righties that I'd rather have in there. And not for nothing, even Wandy Peralta. Maybe he can fucking wiggle his way out of that. Or, Joely Rodriguez in a lefty spot. Don't give me Chad Green. You know what? If you want to use Chad Green in the 7th, fine. 8th or 9th, no. Can't afford it. And Wandy would finish the inning. Green didn't even finish the inning. So Peralta finishes the 8th, and we go to the 9th. Tyler Wells comes in, and it's a leadoff walk for Luke Voit. Good job by Luke Voit to get that leadoff walk. They pinch run Tyler Wade, and Tyler Wade's a weapon off the bench. Gleyber Torres, give him credit here. He does single, and it makes it 1st and 2nd. Sanchez flies out, no advance. Then a really big double steal. Tyler Wade steals 3rd. It was a close play, but this is kind of the significance. And it's also why he's a weapon off the bench. And I kind of do understand at times why you don't want to start him, because there you go. You pinch run Voit, you bring Wade in, and he gets a big steal there. So that sets it up for Brett Gardner, who we'll talk about. Like, Brett Gardner, and he deserves credit because he's been better lately. Like, I just want to say that. But he's like one of the last guys you want up with runner on third, less than 2 outs. He's either going to, it's the way he is. He'll either grant out to second or more likely do a high sky pop to the left. And that's what happened here. But luckily, the infield was in, and it dunks in. Wade scores, and Gleyber, people are giving him credit, some people. It was actually kind of wild base running by Torres. If the guy somehow caught the ball, he would have been doubled off second. They would have lost the game. But it drops, and so Gleyber then scores. So it works out. But I don't really know what he was thinking again. But it works out. They make it 4-3. And then Chapman comes down on the 9th. I wasn't sure if he was going to be available because he pitched the night before. Chapman pitches a 1-2-3 9th. And he looked good. So, good job by Chapman, for sure. So the Yankees escape. They escape that one. They wouldn't be so lucky in the last game. In the last game, it's Jordan Montgomery who's coming off a really rough outing against Chris Ellis. And I should also mention that it was Cortez versus John Means in Game 2. So, Game 3, LeMahieu sits, Voit sits, and, Wade's in the game. Wade plays in this one. But Montgomery goes 5 2/3, he gets 12 strikeouts. Very similar to Cortez. Tons of strikeouts, and gives up a solo shot in the 6th. Montgomery's not, but does he get the win? No, he doesn't. And let's just get right into this one. So, Joey Gallow hits a home run, and I'll say a bit of Gallow. He's been hitting home runs lately. So that's his 35th home run of the season. So Gallow's been, hitting home runs. So a little less to complain about with him. But later in the inning, Urshela gets an RBI double that I wish that Tyler Wade had somehow scored on. It was 1st and 2nd with 1 out. And Gio gets an RBI double. And I wish that Wade, I'd have to look at it again. I don't think there's anyone to blame necessarily, but it's just too bad with his speed. Because who comes up? Brett Gardner. And like I said, even though he got lucky the night before, he's not the guy you want up in this situation. And sure enough, he pops out. That would prove to be critical, as Stanton would also not get the job done the next batter. So again, let's just go to the 6th. Ryan Mountcastle homers, and that makes it a 2-1 game. And Abreu would eventually get the last out of the 6th. He would get 2 outs in the 7th, and then Joely Rodriguez would get Mullins out. So I like the crew of pitchers that came in. I like Albert Abreu. I like Joely Rodriguez against lefties. And then Clay Holmes comes in, pitches a very good 8th. But all the meantime, the Yankees offense is not getting runs. But Clay Holmes pitches a 1-2-3 8th. And then he pitches the 9th and starts the 9th, and I agree with it. So again, considering there was no Chapman, I'm a fan of Abreu. Joely's been good lately, and Clay Holmes, besides a small factor of unclutchness from him has been really, really good. Seriously. And so with 1 out, DJ Stewart singles. And Gutierrez pinch runs for Stewart, who's speedy. Then there's a wild pitch. And that one I'll put on Holmes. This first wild pitch I'll put on Holmes. Sanchez could have caught it, but it was a wild pitch. So that moves Gutierrez to second. Keep that in mind. That's important. Then Pat Valaika grounds out, and Gutierrez moves to third. So it's like I said before, runner on third, 2 out, 1-run game. It is a 2-2 count, and Holmes throws a pitch that was erratic. But Sanchez should have caught it. It's a wild pitch, and Gutierrez scores. And what do you know? On the next pitch, Holmes strikes out, wins. But the damage was done. They tied the game. Just really, really tough. And then top of the 10th, bad job by Aaron Judge. Where there's a runner on second, of course, the ghost runner, and Judge grounds out. You got to get him over, especially with Rizzo coming up. You got to get the runner over. He doesn't do that. They don't score. They don't score at the top of the 10th, which is always trouble. And Wandy Peralta comes on for the bottom of the 10th, and it wasn't his fault. They would lose the game. It was not his fault. It's a bunt single from Martin. They intentionally walk Peralta. Bases loaded, no out. He strikes out Mountcastle. And then Austin Hayes just hits the infield was in, and he hits a little chop ground ball that goes over Gio's head, and they win the game. So, you know, when you don't score in the top of the half of the inning, you put yourself in a real tough spot. So the Yankees it is very close between Toronto, Boston, and the Yankees right now. And I personally am not feeling amazing about the situation. What the Yankees need to do now is take advantage of the next 6 games home against Cleveland and Texas. So it's Zach Plesac versus the former Indian Corey Kluber, who has struggled lately. Kluber needs to bounce back quickly. Then it's Aaron Savale versus Luis Gil, who, Gil in that Twin game wasn't great, but he ended up kind of settling down. And then the last one is Eli Morgan versus Garrett Cole. That's a pretty lopsided matchup. You got to win that one. But you got to win. You got to win all 3. I'm sorry. You have to win these games against Cleveland and Texas. There is no margin for error anymore. None. So we'll see what they do. But this was a loss that you might look back on, if the Yankees fall short of making the playoffs.